In this video, we're going to be talking about the scene setup for modeling the proxy version of the cannon. So the first thing I want you to do is to go ahead and load up this _2 proxycannon.mb, this my binary file that you have here. Before we get started, I was going to tell you about Maya project settings and how you can get that going. So if we do open scene like this, or if we go to File and Set Project, there's two different locations that we can do this. If you do Set Project here, or you go Open Scene, and at the bottom there's a Set Projects here. If you set your project, if you've got a directory structure that you've made, which I like to make for each one of my projects that I've got, you can navigate to where that sits, and you'll see this Modeling for Real-Time Systems 2. Go ahead and select that and hit Set. That sets your project, and that allows you to go to this place right here, where if you go to the workspace root, you can see I've got these different folder structures that I've made for this. Really the only thing that you would care about is the learning content, and that's all of my example files and things like that. Everything's within there, or this class instructional videos. So getting to this workspace root, it's really easy to just go into this learning content, and you can see that I've got Maya reference, maybe documentation, things like that. And if we want to go to Maya, we'll go ahead and click this second proxy cannon right here like this, and go ahead and hit open, and that's going to open the scene that we were currently taking a look at. The other thing is, if you take a look here in the outliner, I've actually taken things and grouped them together. So I've made some different lights within here, and if you want to see the scene with lights, if you tap 7, you can turn on lighting. If you tap 5, you just see the normal shaded view without lighting. So there's the lights. I also have cameras, and I took one of the perspective cameras and then called it perspective camera IP for the image plane. So we've already looked at the video on how to put an image plane in here. And so if you select that camera, if you hit Control A and bring up the attribute editor, again, yours might be docked over here. You can just click and drag it out. That's what I kind of like to do for this stuff. So within here, you're going to be able to see that there is an image plane, and you're going to be able to load up an image. And you can see the image that I used was actually this finished page, and that's having the image kind of go in this direction. From there, I actually put a keyframe on that camera. So you remember what we talked about is if I move this cannon around like this, that I can always click and drag and get this back into the view. So that way we can model and we can check it against our reference, and we can make sure that we're kind of on target for what it is that we're creating. We also have the skeletal mesh, the mannequin from UE4 for our scale reference. So that's been put on a layer. And let me just go ahead and turn that on real quick, and I'll move him around like this, just so you can see what's going on here. Okay, and I'm going to take the model, and I'm going to select the root of the skeleton, tap the W key to put it on move, and then just move it off to the side so you can see a little bit better what's going on with the scale on this thing. Didn't realize that there might be something going on with the foot here for the rotation of that, but let's put this at -90. So if that bugs you like it does me, you could rotate that out, no big deal. So we've got our mannequin that's over here, and I actually took that. If you take the whole group and you make a new layer over here in the layers, you can make a layer, you can call the layer something, and what I called it was the scale reference layer, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and say delete layer, just because I wanted to show you how that was created. But once that's created, I can actually take this. Let me take this whole folder, and I'll select this right here, and I'll right click and say add selected objects to this layer. That way I can turn this thing on and off, and I can tell it to be either a template or a reference. So template turns this kind of pinkish color, and it's see-through, and you can't select it. And if you put on a reference, you can see it like you normally would, and you can click on it and you can't select it, so it's just there as a reference. So the other thing that I did was put this Geo Template on there. Let me go ahead and turn the mannequin off real quick. With the Geo Template, it's the same kind of thing. Right now I can select these objects and everything because this is not set to template. But if this is set to template, you can see we're going to be able to see through this a little bit like that. If I set it here for reference, we can see it like this and not be able to select it. I'm going to turn this on to template mode, and that way we can kind of see the geometry that I created, and we're going to just start to recreate this. So I'm going to put the time slider back on here, just like that. I'm going to hit save. The other thing I'm going to just kind of quickly show you and talk to you about is I took all the geometry and selected all the geometry, and then I hit Control G to make a group, or edit and group right here, like that. And that's how we create our groups. And that's a pretty easy thing to do. So under Geo, I've got this thing called Template, and that's where the template's going to sit for this. If I select the root of this group that I made and tap W for move, you can see that I should be able to move all the elements for the cannon around. But I also have this ground and plants on there. So if you hit Shift H to show those elements, here they are. And if you want to hide them, you can hit Control H. And so if I select these, that's basically under display. You can do hide selection, or you can do show selection. And that's where I'm getting those hotkeys from. So if you want to turn those elements on or off, you can take a look at them at your own time. But this is basically what I want, this kind of setup that we have right here for you right now. And we're going to go and make sure we're in the modeling menu. And that should conclude everything we need to get our scene set up and have an understanding of what's going on with our scene.